Ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome to the Monday night, January 9th, 2023, in the year of our Lord, meeting of Scottsburg City Council. We'll call our meeting to order, and we begin by prayer and also the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you don't mind to rise, we'll have prayer and we'll say the Pledge of Allegiance. Father, we bow before you this evening just to thank you for a day of life, Father. These days are not promised, but Father, we are walking the pilgrimage of life each day as you give us, as we can call it today, Father. So there have been many been born today and many have died today. There's been both great joy and great weeping. So Father, each day is unique unto itself, just as each person is unique unto themselves, Father. We thank you for this time. We thank you, Father, for Scottsburg and Scott County and Indiana and the United States of America, Father. You have sent out the light of the Messiah throughout this world. And Father, we just stand before you thanking you for this opportunity to serve. Father, I pray for wisdom and discernment for our council, for the elected officials, Father. Thank you for their minds and their insight and their love for community. We bless your name and thank you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Okay, the next thing on our agenda this evening is the roll call by our clerk treasurer, Jan Hardy.
Mayor Amy.
Here.
Chris Albertson. Bill Hovland.
Here.
Rick Mans.
Here.
Christian Evans.
Here.
Chuck Rose.
Here.
Thank you, Jan Hardy. And if any of you don't know, Chris Albertson's, can I say this? Okay, mother passed away. And so this was either early this morning or yesterday sometime. So I know he would appreciate the prayers for his family as well. So that's the reason he's not here this evening. So the next thing we have is the approval of the minutes of December the 12th, 2022. So we'll look for a motion for that.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Nevins makes the motion to approve the minutes of 2012. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Chuck Rose seconds. Questions, comments about it? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you very much. The next thing we have this evening is the public comment period. The Scottsburg City Council will accept public comments. Individuals wishing to address the council will be asked to come forward and state their name for the record. Each person will have 5 minutes to voice their opinion. Remarks should focus on issues and not to be used to target city employees or elected officials. We have someone this evening that would like to come forward. Anyone like to come forward? We have a nice group tonight. It's not nice to see everybody here. The room partially filled for sure.
I'm just glad you didn't elect a speaker.
What's that?
I'm just glad you didn't elect a speaker.
It'd only take us 25 times to do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh. Okay, we'll go ahead and close the public comment side. Thank you very much. New business. We have an organization of council for tonight is the council president, finance committee appointee. So what is council's desire, Mr. President?
Just leave it open to if someone wants to nominate someone for the council president. You know, as I've said, I've enjoyed doing it. I will go ahead and serve again if you want me to.
I nominate Rick Mans for council president.
Chuck Rose
even though I'm planning on not running for re-election, as I'm nearing retirement with the school district, and my wife and I have talked about being snowbirds in the future. So,
All the more reason for us to get some mileage out of your way. My nomination stand.
And you've done an excellent job.
well,
Absolutely.
Councilman, absolutely. We have a nominee from the Chuck Rose go forward to recommend. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Bill Holden seconds. Questions, comments, concerns? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you very much. What about our Finance Committee appointee?
Christian, are you still interested in serving in that capacity?
I think I did my term a couple of years ago, didn't I? Was that 2 years ago?
Should do one and.
It was Chris on it now?
Was Chris Albert's the last
I think Chris is on it now.
I think Chris will do a good job.
Well, Chris is not here. I hate to kick a guy when he's down, but
It's very simple. All I do is send you an email when we're getting ready to have an investment, and then you see the rates that we're getting.
Rick, I wasn't able to continue on Board of Zoning Appeals because of the
right.
legal angle that was brought to our attention. So unless Chris really wants to continue, I'd be willing to do that. I don't have.
I have not heard from Chris. I hated to bother him with it.
Exactly.
If you're willing to do it, I would nominate Chuck Rose to be on finance.
We have a motion for Chuck Rose. Is there a second?
Second.
Bill Holden seconds. Questions, comments, concerns? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you very much. It's
Mr.
easy this goes.
Mr. Mayor, we have some folks here that could we rearrange and move the ordinance rezoning for them?
Sure.
I know they kind of wanted, I know they're wanted to get that taken care of first.
Absolutely.
If that's okay.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's going to go down to F. That's PC-10-22, rezoning portion of 1050 North Garden. So, does everyone know where that's at? Okay.
Yeah, it's in my backyard.
And so let me pull that up here. So, okay, so basically,
I can speak if you want me to.
please
Okay,
come up.
so this actually has a new address. If you guys look at the survey in your packets, it's the back portion that's not on the highway at about 5 acres. It's for 860 York Road. And the applicant couldn't be here tonight. Their engineer, Nathan Grimes, is here if you have any specific questions. But they're wanting to rezone that from a business zoning to residential 3. They're planning right now to use it for duplexes, which would be more R2, but they did apply for R3, which was really the only concern, which means they could do higher density apartments if they wanted to. But it did come to you guys. We had a low attendance meeting, so there were only 6 members there to vote. But if you guys have any questions, it's for Rouch Inc., which I think Christian's familiar with. It's lower income housing, but it's not low income housing. They have to show that they have a salary and that they can provide utilities and the rent each month.
I believe there's a criminal background check process alongside of some other, because I know Kelly from Roush, and they did touch on that a little bit in the letter too.
And they did, I don't know if Mr. Grimes has a copy, but they did finalize and choose to do duplexes for here. So, you might be. That's what, that's kind of the rough draft for their development plan.
It's like
but-
preliminary, site plan.
Hey, buddy, how you doing? Watch that cool. We got a trap door next to it.
That's through.
What was that new address? Did you say it's?
860 York Road.
860 York Road?
Yes.
So just for the public that's here, it's currently zoned B2 general business and it's being requested to go to R3 multifamily residential.
As you guys know, there are some apartments just kind of catty corner to them across the street on York Road. And there's also the neighborhood behind them, which is where I think these people come from, right? Okay, so.
Yeah, there's issues over there too.
So, what else do you have to say, Colin?
That's all I have, unless you guys have questions for me. The APC sent it with the 6-0 favorable motion, but like I said, 5 department members weren't. So.
And, there was some concern about the R3 instead
Yeah.
of R2. because on R3 means you could put an apartment building.
Right.
Once it's zoned, rezoned, it's cat's out of the bag kind of thing.
Would council like to open this up to be able to take, have folks be able to speak to this, Mr. President?
Yeah, if they
Do this?
real quick, if they.
One last thing, before anything's developed, it will have to go through the APC again for a development plan hearing. So, if you guys did want to put contingencies out there or have anything, we can focus on that. But if you guys don't have any questions for me right now, I'll let you guys open it up to the public.
Yeah, I don't have any objection.
Okay.
Do you, Bill?
You know, the only concern I would have is, I know some of the property down there and it sits pretty low. And there's not a water problem all the time, but there's been times that there's been water problems down there. And I just don't think this is gonna help it any.
It looks to me on the, you folks probably haven't seen this, but it looks like to me it's a total of, is it 6 duplexes? Is that what it is?
7.
7? Yeah, 7. So, looks like they have a cul-de-sac going in around it. So if you want to see it, who would like to come and speak? Front row.
I'll stand here or go up there.
Whatever you like, whatever you want, buddy.
We live at 20 Northfield Drive, and that is just back of the property we're talking about, Gardner Grant Bank property. And we have a lot of trouble with water problems. In our subdivision, it's one way in, one way out, which is nice for a subdivision. You know, what cars are supposed to be back there, and what cars aren't supposed to be back there. But there's only 2 drains in that subdivision. One drain goes underneath our driveway, which the city's already dug up and fixed the problem there, and drains to the back of the property. North of the property on, forget what that property's name is.
Hidden Valley or
Hidden
something.
Valley.
Meadows.
Hidden Meadows.
Hidden Meadows.
Hidden Meadows,
1 and
yes.
2.
They have dug a small pond and runs over on us. And the east side of the property goes way down. Our property does. It means the bank's property. And they want to build a little pond there again to address those problems. The only thing that addresses is mosquitoes. It's just a mosquito haven, that's all it is. And I don't think they've addressed the problems satisfactory to us at all.
I think this does bring up a good point. And just to clarify, with your guys' concern is not so much the development as much as it is
I have
the
concern
drainage.
with the development as well.
Okay. Can you speak to just kind of the development piece too?
We moved there because it was peaceful and quiet back there.
Right.
And of course, now we have all these 30 or 40 homes to the north of us.
Yeah.
And a lot of noise, a lot of dogs, you know, that weren't there. So I know that would be an issue because when you say 7, this is just the beginning, 7 duplexes, that's 14 families. And we were told that it could be, a senior citizen that can live there or a young family with children.
Right.
So I feel like even though it's not like Section 8 housing, it's still low-income housing. I guess the only saving grace with the homes next door, people have paid good money for those homes, so it's their property to take care of. And typically when you get people that rent, they don't really care about what the property looks like
Right.
or the surrounding areas.
Right. No, and I wholeheartedly agree. And And this being in my district, I obviously had a vested interest in what was happening here. So Kelly with Rouch, the director of housing, I know pretty well, and she put a letter together for us, and also I was able to talk to her on the phone numerous times in the process. And I agree with your comments wholeheartedly. What gave me reassurance as far as the development is concerned was the income requirements. So as far as low income, it would be low income, but it would match what our median income is in Scott County. So it wouldn't be any lower than what we currently have. So if there were to be a development, let's say houses that were to go there, or multifamily for that matter, it would be what the market rates would basically suggest. So, you know, low income is appropriate according to kind of the standard, but it is that median income in the middle of the road for what we have in Scott County. And the second part is I told her directly that there would be no high-rise buildings. There would be nothing that I would
That was
support.
our other concern was when
Right.
it was zone R3, who's gonna stop them if they wanna build a 2-story apartment building?
Right, and when I had that first initial conversation with her, I said, there's under no circumstances would I support a high-rise building there. Now duplexes, townhomes, and they're even talking about some fourplexes, I think that would work well if it's developed appropriately to meet the surrounding area. Now Carmen obviously made a good point with the development plan, as they progress through that, if they are intending, which they have given me every indication that they're not intending to do a high-rise, it would still have to come before area plan. So that would give us a little bit of reassurance, even if this is rezoned.
So if it was rezoned R3, they don't have the right to do a high-rise?
They have the right to do it, but it would have to come before APC as far as the development plan is concerned. Correct me if I'm wrong, Carmen.
That's correct, and I believe there could be, like a written commitment between you all and Rouch if you want to move
Right.
forward between us and the
We
agency.
can put contingencies on the property as it's rezoned. Correct. I'm looking at Amy too.
Yeah, Amy says tonight.
Okay, so the short answer is I believe firmly yes, and I think we can all probably speak in agreement here that we don't want high rises there, definitely. And that was the first concern. But number two, I'm gonna look at the mayor and Josh for some reassurance on this. Drainage is an issue citywide.
It's
Well,
definitely an issue.
And that, I know we are working with some drainage issues now and talking about that anyways.
right, let me address Gary's, because typically, I want to have a master drainage plan for the city of Scottsburg before I leave office. So I want you to know that and begin implementing that. So, that is a huge necessity.
Yeah, I know Josh and I talked about looking at our drainage ordinance, you know, as far as a couple weeks ago. Because your concern is a valid one,
It is.
certainly. And
It
it's
is.
something that needs to be addressed, not only in that area, but citywide. So we do
Citywide.
need to look at that.
I think I mentioned that to you a year ago or so when you were gonna walk back there and look at, but we have, when they built the other homes, the little smaller homes on York Road around the corner, 3 of those are rentals that Tom Patton owns. But the other 2, and then there are 2 across the street, those were homes that were purchased. That only added to the drainage because the ground is, you know, there's a structure there now, so it's not soaking up that much water like it did. But so we have more water, and we have like a small river that runs between our property slants and the bank's property slants. It's not the bank's property anymore, but we have the river, and then we have a small tributary running over here. And I'm noticing that we have an outbuilding out by our pine trees, which are to the back of the property. And the water is getting closer and closer, like every summer, to the structure of that building.
And I have every intent to bring a plan to city council so that we can have a resolve because this is citywide. This is citywide. And I want to tell you, I was in Minneapolis, Minnesota for 10 years. Minnesota has the land of 10,000 lakes, and they had mosquito patrols. So to address your concern there too, Gary, because we can also, if we do make areas where we have a small water retention front area, if they require, like you just said, a mosquito patrol. And but this is a huge concern, I think, of every councilman up here, as well as the mayor.
Well, when they developed the homes next to us on the other side of what I call our tree line, that's my only saving grace is when the summer comes and the trees leaf out and the bushes grow up, I don't have to look at all that over there. But now, there's no privacy, like we had before. And the other thing two other things I was concerned about, they're gonna make an entrance into the property they're wanting to develop off of York Road. That's just more traffic. And we're already having issues getting out on 31 now since they changed the structure of the lanes. All it did was make it harder for us to get out of there. So there's going to be more traffic. And the other thing is, I worry about the property values going down on our homes back there because you've got multifamily residential going in.
Now, let me just address one thing too. One of my goals, and I've spoken with the owner, is I am wanting to try to complete Beechwood Resort. So that should help you some there if that's able to be done. And I've talked to Mr. Buxton. So that's one of the things I would like to try to get done as well.
Well, when that subdivision that we live in was designed, it was kind of poor design because like he said, there are only 2 storm drains and they're right in front of our driveway, and the one does go under our driveway, which is already caved in once. So if we want to concrete our driveway, we're a little not sure about that because what if you do that and it caves in again, then no one's going to fix it, it's going to be on us.
Well, but again, I want to go back to the point that we do need to get an active storm drain plan going because the storm drains we have now are plugged, broken, and sometimes going nowhere. So,
Yeah, because everything from up the street, the street has a natural slant too, and it all comes down to we're right in the corner and everything collects there. I'm talking not just water, but debris from down the street.
I guess some folks with a bad rain, when they walk outside, they're ankle deep. So we've got to correct it.
Yeah.
So, and I don't disagree with you. So I think every councilman up there agrees with you as well. So that's on our target to get accomplished for all of us. So, but thank you so very much.
I know it probably won't keep it from happening, but I don't like it, so I guess there's not a lot I can do about it.
You're talking about all the development. I'm sorry, I was talking about. So, what other questions? Council, do you have anything you want to?
I think if they're gonna do something like that, for the plan, it ought to be developed before this goes in.
Exactly.
Not as a promise, we'll get this done before the end of my administration.
We had an engineer who promised to fix the drainage ditch next to the side of our property when they put that development in next to us. Oh, we're gonna come in and we're gonna dig it out, we're gonna put tiles in, we'll make it really, didn't happen. So
That was the mayor of the New Albany when he bought the property.
Yeah.
Well, we're putting drainage in on Moonglow 2. So Moonglow 2 didn't have drainage, but it'll have drainage from. So we're making efforts that way. We hired engineers to have the plan. We have the plan, so we're getting ready to put that in. So.
I still say have the plan fixed before they do it.
Yeah, sure.
That's the way to do it.
Sure.
Only way to do it.
Yep.
I guess I have a question. Would R2 not accommodate the plan fee to duplexes? Carmen
It would accommodate it.
Huh?
It would.
And why are we continuing to consider R3? I mean,
They chose R3 because they hadn't met with an engineer and architect before they started the application process.
I mean,
So they had to
just-
narrow down their housing options.
And this is a good question, Chuck, and Carmen, I clarify this too. I'm trying to pull up the email that Kelly had sent over. So to explain that R3 zoning would help with a better use of the whole property, and that a phase 2 might include building units that don't fit the traditional duplex model, meaning townhomes or 3 or 4plex buildings.
See, there you go.
So the townhomes, it would within R2, right?
Townhomes would fit within R2, 3 or 4-plex would not.
Right. But 3 or 4 plexes, we're not talking about like high rise. Those are just, but that wouldn't fit within R2, right?
Right.
But a
So
townhome
it's
is
two
a
plexes.
2-story
Yes.
structure usually. A townhome is.
Yes.
It's not a high rise, but it generally, you have it upstairs.
Right.
I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page.
But that's assuming that's the next phase, right? That's
Right,
later
and
on
they
down the
haven't
road.
planned the next phase yet, and again, that second phase would also come back through APC. If you give me a minute, I can tell you the maximum height the townhouse could be though. And I don't think the maximum height is too different.
But while she's looking at it, I agree, Bill, with your statement. I guess, Josh, the question I have is the process here. So say we move forward with the rezone, before they submit development plans, we can have a new drainage ordinance in place that would be enforced on that property, correct?
In theory, absolutely.
So the maximum height for a structure in R2 is 35 feet, and in R3, the maximum height's 40 feet. So it's only a 5-foot difference.
So in R2, like if it is rezoned just to R2, it's 35 feet. So they can still build a 35-foot structure.
Yeah, that's right.
Which is like a 2-story house.
And then, yeah, because they
Yeah.
can still build a townhouse under the R2 zoning.
So the only thing R3 provides is 3 or 4 plexes,
Right, that's correct.
I mean,
which is
think
not
about
in this development.
Have any of you councilmen driven back into, the subdivision north of us,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
in
in the
the-
meadows.
Yeah.
like a small slum area, some houses?
Say it again.
Some of the houses back there are slum areas already, you know, people just don't keep the property, you know. Everything's on the front porch.
Yeah.
Or all around, one of them is all
See
around
that
the yard.
all
Yeah.
neighborhood anymore.
What'd you say?
Because I've only seen one home. I've only seen one.
So, go to the right, back
Right.
right.
It's a problem with throughout, and I'll be honest with you, it's a problem throughout
Oh,
the
yeah.
city.
Yeah, I know.
Because in our
My dad
neighborhood,
has
we
it
have
right across the
issues,
street from him on Fifth Street,
you know.
which hasn't been addressed yet either.
Say again, please.
I said, my dad has that issue across the street from him with a neighbor that has everything, including a dumpster in the front yard, that's been there for months and months, and trash and all kinds of, it still hasn't. I don't understand how she's getting by with that.
Code enforcement came in, and right now we are getting ready to hire, the code enforcement left, I got,
Yes.
we're hiring another code enforcement.
I heard that.
So that's why there's been some flags there. It's not for want, but I can assure you that. So, sometimes we just have to, we've had several that have been cleaned up even without by, some of the chief's guys go by.
Yeah, there have been police over there multiple times. There's a problem with the children, that nobody really seems to know too much about, that the neighbors know.
Yeah.
So, sorry, didn't mean to get off the page.
Who else has comment? Does anyone else have comment that you'd like to talk about on this property?
I think, I don't mean to put you on the spot, Councilman, but I know you were in some of these ABC meetings as well.
Yeah.
I do agree. I think with this development, since we're just looking at this development, we're not talking about the future phase. I think it might be beneficial to go R2 for this phase.
Yeah, and that's, you know, that was my comment when we, can't you change to R2, and they weren't interested in changing to R2 at the time. But I knew we could set restrictions here, so.
So I guess I'm curious, is if they're talking about future phase, I know that's what Kelly had indicated, and if they wanted that to be R3, that can be a standalone issue that we deal with when that time comes. But since we're just deciding the rezone for this phase,
Can we change it to R2?
it would have to go back.
Or do we have to go with their application?
I think with the information you just provided, that there was a discussion about potentially changing to R2 and they were not interested.
Right, because they'd have to do the application process.
I would have hesitancy in amending it to that because they have sought a change to R3 and expressed a desire not to go R2. So, as if any amendment you do today, if there's any amendment or rejection, would go back to APC for further action.
Right.
So, but if you send it back with the R2 and then APC accepts it, the property owner might be getting something they're not necessarily seeking. So maybe they prefer it just to be left to B2 if they can't get R3. I don't know. I can't speak for them. They're probably not comfortable speaking to that, and they're not here anyway. So
At the meeting, it sounded like they weren't sure what direction they were gonna go. Is that right? I mean, you.
Correct.
Okay, this.
And they were going, they sought an
Not a
R3.
plan for duplexes, it's just something that's come up since the ABC meeting.
What?
This diagram.
No, this, we saw this. I believe you provided this to our meeting. And it was duplexes, but the space 2 was not defined at that
So
time.
you did
Correct me
say-
if I'm wrong.
Right. And they still haven't determined what they're gonna do with the back.
So even if we approved it today as R3, whenever phase 2 comes, they would have to then present a development plan that we can agree or disagree to.
Correct.
Well, does it come back to us, or does it only go to APC?
Only APC.
ABC.
See, once we approve the zoning, it's done from the city council point of view.
Can we approve it with the contingency that it would come before us?
yeah, and add it in conditionally. It's conditional approval.
Could we do that, Carmen?
You could do that, but you could also do a written commitment to say you wouldn't want to see high density housing instead, so they don't have to come back before you all.
Add a commitment or amendment to add any restrictions you want to do that.
If we're going, if that's what the council's thinking about doing is to approve this, I would not approve it without a couple things.
Right.
One being that the drainage issue is, it's
Right.
defined, it has to be fixed, it has to be done, somehow, and that I wouldn't be comfortable with it, any high-rise there.
Right.
I don't even know,
I would have to see the model of a fourplex that they're looking at
Yeah.
as well. I don't think that's just a easy sign off to say you can have a fourplex.
Just think if you want that in your backyard.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
I still think, show what the plan's gonna be to correct, do this correctly the first time through, not go back and fix a problem that's, could be 2-3 years before it gets fixed.
Right. So I think from what I'm understanding, I think if we approve the rezone contingent upon an updated drainage ordinance, we have the preliminary plat of phase 2 in hand. They can go through APC, but we'd also have to have eyes on it. Am I missing another? Or is those two summarize pretty much everything?
so they would not be able to start construction until a drainage ordinance is been approved by the city council, is that what you're saying?
So the way
I'm trying to make sure I understand what you're
I'm trying to think through it as I'm talking to you.
Because
our
the drainage
current
plans go
structure-
through Board of Works, right?
as of right now, so
Yeah,
if
that's part of
nothing
it.
changes, they're going to have to submit drainage approval through
Right.
and it would come to Board of Works, which Robbie or Dave would, an engineer, we could have review that and make comments and recommendations prior to Board of Works adopting that. So there is a layer currently in place, outside of having a new ordinance that we would have another layer say on it before approval would be granted on that issue too.
And that has to be done before you
Right.
get building permits or anything.
Right. I just know we were in the process of going through the drainage ordinance anyways, and obviously with this coming up, it might help expedite that process.
You also have a limit on height of development. Here's another thing that council probably needs to be aware of, because if you were to go R3, and correct me if I'm wrong, could they just not put, you know, a 200-foot long building and make, you know, one bedroom apartments all the way down, and make those too high? So I mean, you could really put a lot of heat in that R3.
If they did not have to come back before the council, but
They would have to come,
stipulation that.
they'd have to come back with a development plan to ABC.
Got another question.
You can't do that with R2 zoning. You would with I guess.
That's what I'm saying, but it's R3 right now, and so if it's passed on R3, they could do that.
Got a question. Got a question yet. Where the water drains behind your property, and it looks like there's a retention pond to handle other further drainage. That drainage from behind, I take it behind your house, and this retention pond, where does that go to?
The new retention pond that they're proposing,
Yes, and the water problem behind your house.
they're planning to put it in the corner right close to our backyard.
So in other words, it goes no place else
I don't
after
know
that.
where it goes, Bill.
That's what I'm asking.
Yeah,
Where does it go from there?
Right, it's saturated, it just stays there.
So this retention pond,
You-
will
you-
just.
unless we have a ground, it's not gonna dry up.
It'll
If
keep
we
it out
had,
of
if
the
we
garage.
had a decent rain behind our property on the bank's, like I say, on the bank's property now, there's a small lake there.
You've got a drain going down the east side of Hidden Meadows 1.
It doesn't work.
In that,
It doesn't work. Their backyard is proof of that.
on Hidden Meadow 1, what I'm saying is, then they're not quite on Hidden Meadow 1. So I'm just saying that very possibly we could extend that, get over to that drainage area. Again, we don't have a plan, and that's what this plan is going to do, is to identify the areas that we can direct that water to. And if areas we don't have it, then we could put it into a small retention pond or something of that nature. We have different options. But again, I think we need to get this whole plan for this whole development. I don't disagree.
Yeah, from the two storm drains that go under our driveway, they go and they empty into well, it's just a ditch, and it overflows, and each summer it's getting further and further up in our yard, and then fills into the small river where the ravine is back there behind the property. So it's coming from two different sides.
Let's do this, if everyone is okay on the council. Let's go ahead and table this approval. Let's give 2 more weeks to work towards a drainage ordinance, if that's possible. Get some more facts as far as zoning is concerned, and then,
There are two things I would love to find. I'm gonna have trouble, and I expressed this at the planning commission,
right,
being R3
right,
anyway.
Thank
And even though I voted for it,
right,
it was because the owners at the time said they weren't interested in R2, and I knew that I would get another chance to vote on it,
right.
and I still struggle with an R3 there.
No, I agree.
And so,
I agree.
I'm willing to, I would like to table this as well. And anybody else have it?
I'm having trouble approving it for our reason.
Yeah, I think it needs to be tabled. I think we need to understand exactly some of the intent, what's going on, but I'll make the motion to table.
I'll second.
Mr. Nevin makes a motion to table, correct, Chuck Rose seconds that. Any other questions about this?
Got a question.
What I would like to see happen there is, we don't have a decent rain, and does some flooding, for the engineer to come up and go back there and look at what the problem is.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And again, I want you to know that we will, we'll get all that done for you. And nothing else, we'll take pictures, we'll have them come up here and see what's going on. We'll find out what the problem is.
Okay.
Absolutely. Because again, that's been one of the the engineering company, we're getting ready to bring that out to see, you know, who wants to bid on this and come up with a master plan for the entire city.
Okay,
So, for sure. I appreciate it, buddy.
thank you.
So we have a motion and a second. Are there any other questions about this? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Unanimous. Thank you very much.
When's the next meeting?
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Okay, so we've completed A, we've completed F. So,
Back in order.
go back to order now?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Next, we have 4-H. Is the 4-H here?
Yes.
Thank you for being patient with us.
For sure, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Please come forward.
I'm with the junior leaders. My name is Sierra Jones, and I'm a junior at Austin High School. I'm also part of the 4-H Rock Riders group in Horse and Pony. I wanted to thank you specifically for the equine trips we were able to go on last year. I went on an educational overnight trip to Morehead State University and the Kentucky Horse Park, and then a day trip to Churchill Downs and to the local female. Being in 4-H has taught me how to be responsible and learn life lessons. And I appreciate the opportunity to take the trips and see these experiences. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Sophia Boyles. I'm a junior at SHS. I was a camp counselor for the 4-H camp last summer, and I just wanted to thank you guys for the opportunity. I learned lots of leadership skills and how to deal with difficult challenges. Meeting with the kids was so fun. We made up with lovely campfire songs and came up with fun activities and dances. And yeah, so thank you so much for the opportunity.
Hi, my name is Carson Sparrow. I wanted to thank you specifically for the camp scholarships. I was a camper at 4-H this year. Our county had 34 campers and 2 camp counselors. 4-H was a great experience for the youth grades, 3rd through 8th grade. High schoolers can be counselors and help the campers with making new friends and learning new skills. My favorite part was about 4-H was meeting new people. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Randy Palmer-Sapp, and I'm a freshman at Scottsburg High School. I want to specifically thank you for the money that allowed us to have scholarships to Roundup. Roundup is a 3-day event on Purdue University's campus where 7th through 9th graders get to learn about careers and what it's like to live on campus. We stayed 2 nights in the dorm rooms and made lots of new friends. My favorite part was getting to explore the campus and learning what it was all about. Thank you again for supporting 4-H.
Hi, my name is Madeline Holiday, and I'm a freshman at SHS. And I also went to Roundup with Randy. And I also attended the 4-H day at the State House last year. When we toured the State House and learned about everything that happens there. One thing I enjoyed was meeting and learning about the Indiana representatives. Thank you for supporting the trips I was able to go on last year.
I'm Leslie Robinson. Megan McNeely asked me to step in for her because she is gone at a work training. Without your guys' support, our Scott County 4-H youth would not be able to do the things that they get to do. Going to different schools and helping out the youth and seeing those experiences. It's just been a blessing. My kids, this is their 2nd year and they loved camp. And without the support that you guys give us, you know, there's kids that wouldn't be able to do that kind of thing. So we just want to say thank you for all that you do for the 4-H in Scott County.
Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I had some of these students in class, so they're great kids.
They survived,
They survived me. They deserve a badge or whatever.
4-H is a great
Just barely.
organization. I'm glad you're participating. I appreciate you coming tonight.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Amen. What a great investment here, right?
Yes,
For
sir.
sure, for sure. And thank you so very much for coming and saying thank you. That's so kind. That's so
Thank you.
nice. So everybody appreciates that. So thank you so very much.
Thank you.
So,
How good? Terry, can I just say one more thing?
Please.
When I was on the school board, I was down to high school to see Kurt Wilson.
Yeah.
And he made an announcement for me to come to the office. At one corner, there stood Bill Stickles. He said, well, Gary, he said, I see you're in trouble again. I said, well, Mr. Stickles, I might be in trouble, but I don't think I am this time.
Gary, thought you wanted to join 4-H. I thought this.
Mr. Stickles was a.
Well, I usually win, so I'm gonna go before the game's over.
Get ready for Georgia.
Lived right there on going into Salem, didn't he? On
Yes,
the
he did.
left-hand
Yeah,
side.
Connie and I were talking about that the other day.
Yeah.
He was my counselor, great guy.
Yeah, he was
He
good.
was a fine man.
Thank you, folks.
Here, thank you guys very much.
Thank you everyone for listening to my long drawn out meeting.
Thank you for coming and being with us this evening.
Thanks.
The next thing we have on our agenda this evening is Cease Opiate with Lois and Dylan. Hi, guys.
Hi. You have to excuse my voice, I did some drywall work this weekend.
I thought it was yodeling.
Well, you know, maybe, you never know. So we came to you guys a couple months ago, right after we had presented to the county commissioners. So the opioid settlement funds, we were looking to create a plan. So the Scott County Partnership, Cease, and Thrive all joined together to create plans for the abatement settlement funds. So as we know, the state decided to surprise us with that money in December, kind of abruptly.
Wow.
So it's here now. So we had originally proposed implementing something called Pulse Point within the community, which is the push notifications for first responders. But after having some conversations with Clark County and some of the legal restrictions, we decided to amend the plan. So we had mentioned back then the county commissioners had brought us some concerns and what that looked like. We had some additional conversations with Clark County since then. So we've amended the proposal to request additional funds for our grant cycle. So Cease awards grants every year to members of our coalition. So our coalition represents 39 different organizations within Scott County, and we work in 3 different pillars. So the first pillar is prevention and education. So Dylan represents the Drug-Free Communities or grant program, and so that's prevention, like programming that's going on in our schools. We've got pro-social activities for youth here in the community. So we have that pillar. Our next pillar is treatment and intervention. So that's your mental health facilities, that's places like Thrive that offer peer support services. Our third pillar is justice and law enforcement. And so that's being able to fund programs like they've got some programs, some groups going on within community corrections. That's also helping provide some education and training for our law enforcement. There may or may not be a grant team. So that's what the funds would be spent for, and which is the exact abatement approved uses. So this would expand. The problem is we're doing our job well, and so Cease used to get about $25,000 a year to grant out to our recipients for the different programs. Because our recidivism has dropped over the last several years, we're down to about $15,000 to $17,000. So the problem is the programming that's actually working is going to go away because we're not going to have the funding for it. So being able to use the abatement funds to expand that grant process is what we're asking you for. So we're requesting $10,000 of those abatement settlement funds. So there's an abatement portion which has to be spent based on the federal plan. And then there's an unrestricted share that could benefit anything that would have been adversely impacted. So for example, the county is looking at the cost of EMS. So EMS, because of the opioid epidemic, EMS has had to make more runs. They need to do other things, other EMS things to their vehicles, that kind of stuff. So the unrestricted shares could be spent in those kinds of ways, whereas the restricted funds, which is what we're requesting, have to be spent in the way that the federal government outlined those plans. So
So you're requesting the restricted funds?
The
correct?
restricted funds, yes.
And
And
and so you're asking for us to make a motion to allow you to do that? Is that, correct me if I'm wrong?
correct. We're here to answer any questions you all have. I mean, we would love for you to vote on it tonight, but I know that that's a big ask, right?
We do have the money, we created those two funds, and I apologize, what did we get, like 23,000 in the restricted?
I believe so, and they're restricted.
I didn't
Right,
know those
so we're not
numbers.
requesting the entire amount. I mean, we can spend the rest of it if you would like for us to, but we're requesting that $10,000 to be able to expand the grant process.
But it's all going into the grant funds, is what you're
It
saying?
would, absolutely.
I have no problem making a motion right now
So,
to do that.
one thing I don't say,
Sorry to see you do that
the
tonight.
Attorney General's office, I don't know if it was a joint session, but on some of the city, county government listservs, one of the other has made an indication that there will be audits of these funds.
Absolutely.
And so one of the questions that has been raised from people like me is, so how do we ensure that people we're giving these funds to, that they actually are following the federal guidance on what the uses are? And the guidance at this point has been, grant agreements, use agreements, something to that effect.
So, MOUs are one of the ways that counties and city municipalities are doing that. So that's a memorandum of understanding saying, we're granting you all this money in purposes of it being used for these specific purposes. So we would sign that agreement first. The other component of that is, I don't believe that I should take money from anybody in terms of implementing programs without giving you all outcomes data. So part of what CEAS already has going on is a program evaluation. So each year we have a program evaluation that shows that we're working toward the goals and what progress we're making. So I actually have a copy of a presentation in here that was just presented in December from our program evaluator, just to give you all some ideas about the directions we're heading. We've made some pretty significant strides in adolescent substance misuse and reducing those rates. So we would not only provide the outcomes data, but we would also provide a breakdown of how that funding is spent. So that's something we have to report to ICJI, Indiana Criminal Justice Institute. So we do a quarterly report, and then we do an end-of-year report. So we have to, account for every penny that goes in and out. So that is the kind of information that we would be able to provide back to you. I hope that answers the question.
Absolutely.
Josh? Oh, I'm sorry.
I just, at some point, there's been some dollar amounts or percentages mentioned by State Board of Accounts as far as leaving some balance available for audit purposes and all of that stuff. So to try to head that off, that we would have some type of written agreement that we are getting these reporting, you guys are receiving this into a separate fund, you're tracking that, and then if there is any misuse that you are refunding, so having that written agreement is, I think, will be imperative.
Could you prepare, Allison, for us, so that, and could you reach out to our council? I mean, I think we're all.
I'm sure the rest of you can an example from somewhere else.
I'm sure I could probably fudge you.
But yeah, that would be, I'm fine with the motion and just be contingent upon the written agreement being.
The written agreement being able to.
We have Bill. Bill has a question.
The $10,000 you're asking from the city, are you getting money also from the county?
We're requesting, well, I guess fingers crossed. Yes, we are requesting funds from the county as
Okay,
well.
what about the city of Austin?
Yes, we are requesting funds.
About how much from each one of those entities?
So, obviously the amount that each entity is receiving is drastically different. And so our request from the county, and granted it has to be approved from the county and then from the county commissioners, and then has to go to city council for the final kind of thumbs up, or county, sorry. So that amount is $81,800, and there's a way bigger use of those funding, of that funding,
But
that
still,
$81,000.
but parts of it's being funded by the county, which is all of us.
Yes.
And part of
Yes.
which is a city, which is just us, the
Yes.
same thing for Austin.
Yes.
Is it easier, but you're responsible to 3 different organizations?
Yes.
But
So,
one month.
so then, I guess an option, and I don't, this may be a Josh question, this may be a Jan question, I don't really know, right? So the way that cease grant funds currently work, because those fees are assessed by the court and they're held by the county auditor. And then the county auditor is actually the one to write the checks for the grants.
Okay, so if we, offer to have this $10,000, it's available to you, and then the county says, no, they aren't, in the city of Austin, what happens when that 10,000 is gone?
It's just an expansion of this year's grant program.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's other funding that's taking care of it.
Yes, yes, and one of the things, so CEAS has been around for, 34 years. I was gonna look over there, Scott, but, so CEAS has been around for 34 years. One of the things that has never happened is an application for a 501c3 status. So although the organization is incorporated as a domestic nonprofit, they've never applied for that federal status, which meant that they weren't eligible for grants. And so that's our goal by the end of this year, is to have our 501c3 status so that we can apply for some of these federal grants and not have to worry about some of the restrictions with the small business.
And to shed a little bit light, so this year, we're talking around 13,000 and restricted, and next year, you're down to like 2,400.
Right.
So, you're gonna have a little bit of money to each year, but this is the year that you have a large pot.
And one of the things that they're talking about doing is, right now it's on a 16-year payout. So those funds this year were much larger than what they're going to be for subsequent years, but they're talking about reducing that to 10 years, so you may have a little bit extra. The big thing that we're looking at is we're trying to expand our grant process and expand what we can do in the community, but we also have to wait on that process of getting a 501c3, and that's not a fast process. So our hope is that by next year we won't even need the additional opioid settlement funds.
So, I once again am not opposed to making a motion to approve this, all pending the memorandum of understanding that that council will give us, the counselor will come up with.
Absolutely.
Okay.
A motion from Rick Mance to go forward with this $10,000. We'll use alongside it. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Chuck Rose seconds. Questions, comments then? Concerns? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign? Unanimous. Thank you very much.
So just get with Josh.
I will do that. My office is real far from his, so.
We need to find a way over.
One question that I have when you're talking about this going into the cease and the grant funds, is this the same pool of funds that our police get grants
It
from
is.
every year? So
It is.
as long as,
Yeah, and we've used a lot more than 10,000
Oh,
over the
yeah.
last 20 years.
I was gonna say, just ever since I've been here in '08, I know our police has gotten it, and we break down their overtime pay that comes out of
We
the
use it for
cease.
drug investigations.
Yes.
We use it
So
for,
just so you know, we
use
use
it
it.
for numerous
Keep
things.
doing that.
As long as they continue to show up to meetings, we'll continue.
Major Harden attends the meetings.
Okay.
Mr. Sunshine.
He's a whole joy person.
It's one of those things that this money is going to come back to the city.
Absolutely.
In
Yeah,
services.
they've done. So we will need a W-9 before we issue the
Okay.
check for your organization.
Okay.
So will that MOU come back for a vote to Board of Works?
Board of Works.
Board of, okay.
Okay.
So
So I will get with Josh and then.
So you've got the funding approved, now we'll get the agreement, and then Board of Works will authorize the mayor to sign that.
Well, thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, the next we have Eric Lowry with Mayberry, the Mayberry Man. He's still awake. please come forward. And
Did you want to lay the groundwork for that, or you want me to just come on up?
basically, Eric probably came to see us a year ago.
Probably, yeah.
And
Can I approach and give you some materials?
please. And this has been, as you know, he has been the judge on the Mayberry Men. And there's been, we're going to tell you about several towns that have been hosting Mayberry events. So it just sounds very exciting, and he's got a lot to tell you. So,
And we all love to get a packet of materials and then have a person stand up here and read it to you. And so, if you could settle down, I'm gonna go ahead and read you your comment. I have been, you guys know about the Andy Griffith Show? Does everybody know the Andy Griffith Show? You'd be surprised who doesn't know. When I ask that, people say they've never heard of the Andy Griffith Show. Well, I've been a fan of the Andy Griffith Show in the town of Mayberry for most of my life. And about 15 years ago, I got involved in this Mayberry fan community. You guys might be familiar that many shows and movies have these fan communities around the country where they do events and things like that. Well, this Mayberry was a little bit different. It's very much like Scottsburg. It's a small town feel where people really just, they care about each other. When they come together for these events, it's an amazing kind of a thing. And they've been around, in the Andy Griffith's hometown, they've been doing them for over 30 years. In Danville, Indiana, they had one for 6 years that stopped because of COVID. Had one in South Carolina for over 6 years that became the #1 tourist event in South Carolina for the time that it was happening. These two smaller ones, for their total 12-year period, drew between 6,000 and 10,000 people to these small towns. I've been involved as the term is a tribute artist. We don't like to use impersonator because we don't really try to sound and be exactly like the characters, but many folks dress up as characters from the show and come to these events. So Barney and Otis and Floyd the Barber and Gomer and Goober, those kind of folks come and we basically try to recreate the feel of Mayberry in a community. And so when Danville stopped having theirs, I thought, wouldn't it be great to bring a festival and a thing like this to Scottsburg? And so I began, as the mayor says, almost a year ago, laying the groundwork for doing that very thing. As you'll see through here, there's a lot of information just about this in general, the kind of things that happen at events like this. I have been fortunate enough to become friends with cast members and celebrities from the show, and who have agreed to support our event here if we can make this happen. As a matter of fact, and I'll let you in on one little piece here that you'll find in, we have the possibility of having something happen here in Scottsburg that's never happened at a Mayberry event anywhere in the history of Mayberry events. And that is to have a lecture event with Andy Griffith's daughter and Don Knotts' daughter telling stories about their family and about their experiences together and about the show and the history and that kind of thing. Really, really cool thing. It's never happened anywhere. I think that's going to be a big draw in and of itself. We have other celebrities who have agreed to come and others that we're in discussions with. So at this point, when we started talking last year, it was interesting to mention the 501c3. When we started talking last year, how do we have this organized and what kind of a structure needs to be in place? And the city began that kind of work. And that does take time. So we've had discussions with the chamber, and the chamber has agreed, and they're excited about being the title sponsor. So this would be a chamber event, and we envision the partnering with the city of Scottsburg as a public-private partnership of two groups that would come together and help make this happen. So last year, I know, we did Fall Fun Fest here in Scottsburg. It was very well received, as I understand. I went to it. It was great. There were so many people that came out. It just was really, really well done. You might imagine that this Mayberry event would be very similar to Fall Fun Fest with a whole bunch of Mayberry added to it. And so the city already has an experience with that. I've worked with Jill Jill and I go way, way back. We can talk about how long back we've worked together. But I worked with Jill on these discussions as well. And she and her team, who did such a great job in the Fall Fun Fest, will come together with our team of Mayberry volunteers, including several who were responsible for running the Danville event for several years, and be able to organize it and make these things happen. So tonight, frankly, I'm not really sure what the appropriate process is and what has to happen in terms of the city being able to say, yes, we're supportive of this event and we'd like to help make that happen. So I leave that to you guys as a group to tell me what the next steps would be in order to say, yes, we think that would be great for our community, we'd like to be involved and we'd like to help. I hope that's the answer, of course. You may not choose to have that answer, but I really think it could be a very exciting thing for Scottsburg. We have so much of it that basically is on the starting line, waiting for the word to say, let's go.
One of my first questions is how much is it going to cost? I'm a business guy, so, and from what we're looking at, it looks like it can be self-funded.
Well, let me give you at least what information we have here now. The budget is still kind of in flux. It's not been nailed down because we really haven't gotten the word, to say, yes, we can do that. Danville's budget has been approximately $50,000. Is what they have spent up there for that. And a lot of that goes to bringing in these celebrities. You have to find them and pay the fees and that. But there are also several other income sources that we are looking at that we feel really good about. Have had conversations with the county and with the Visitors Commission. They supported when we showed the movie I guess 2 years ago. They helped support that as well. And so they have expressed their desire to help us with this also. There are several events within the weekend that would be ticketed events, so that there would be income coming in from that as people buy tickets to certain portages. Like the Fall Fun Fest, for vendor booths and things like that, there would be income as you charge for having set up as well. I think there are several opportunities for events to also be sponsored by local businesses and have them add some additional funding as well. So I really believe, as I look at the pro forma and at the budget, I think this thing could be at the very least break even. And the chamber would hope that maybe it could be a little bit of a fundraiser for them too.
So are you asking for money from the city?
Not today. But I'm not saying that I may not come back and say, here's what we're looking at, this is what the numbers come out, would you be willing to put in some funding as well? What I am asking for, and we've kind of talked about it with place here, there are several things where the city can help, but while it may not be a direct cash contribution, it would require, to have an event like this, it would require the city to be helpful for logistics, for traffic control, for waste pickup, those kind of things. Anytime we have an event like that, there's things that happen. Public safety as well. The last thing is potential financial support, depending on how this budget lines out. So if we have the tentative initial support of the project, then that next step is going to be to nail down the budget, make those presentations around, and make sure that we can at least have the initial funding that it'll take to get it off the ground before we receive the actual funding from tickets and things like that.
Are you thinking in the fall? Is that what you're thinking? Because it says in 2023.
Right.
So I'm just
The
wondering.
weekend of June 23 to 25.
I couldn't find that.
Well, that's at the bottom of page 1.
There it is.
Yeah.
Is that set in stone, Eric? Is that when you had to do it to get everybody here?
That's a big part of picking that date, is all the availabilities for the celebrities as well. Did do some checking around here as far as things that were happening, again, working with the mayor and Jill on what availabilities were. That seemed like about the best day that we could get everything to come together as best we could.
And I understand that that's just the weekend of the Olympic banquet.
So,
yeah, in our 50-year class reunion. Yeah, that's, yeah.
Well, you guys can come to Mayberry stuff too. We don't do that all weekend, will you?
No, yeah,
Yeah, okay.
Well, that sounded familiar.
I noticed in the Mayberry Man movie, you had, I understand the chamber and all that, where they did it in Mount Airy or wherever it was that took place. But you also had a lot of contributors.
Oh, yeah.
Contributed $100, $200, $500. Lowry family.
There was a lot of Lowrys in that thing.
The William family, I mean, there was a lot of Scottsburg names that were in a part of that, and we're also making financial contributions to that. You get, 100 people doing a couple $100 a piece, that's pretty good.
Just to give you an idea, the Knox and Griffith show itself, I think, if I'm not mistaken, you guys were saying that one of the facilities holds like 360 people or something. If you had 300 people who paid $20 a ticket, that's $6,000 for just that one event. And we'll have a couple of other events that I think will be ticketed too. So a lot of it will be free. That's the whole point is, you can't make everything ticketed. But the really high quality events, especially that have those kind of celebrities, there would be opportunities to buy tickets that will help bring in funds for the project.
I know I was excited about this because when Bill and I kind of came up at our fairgrounds, they had a wooden stands with a roof on it. I don't know if you remember that, Chuck, but they had that, and they would have different events. And one minute, I remember there was a Hollywood guy there back then it was cowboys, and he had a horse with a black eye. And I remember going up there and giving his picture and signing. It was just neat. So to me, it was a draw. So I think the idea too was if you get Don Knotz's and daughter and Andy's daughter coming in, maybe when they land, take them over to the TV stations that they could interview them in some way as well to get interest from folks coming to Scottsburg to see the Mayberry Days.
Yeah, in Danville, generally, the promotion began months ahead of time. But that was a big thing the day or so before the event was that the Indianapolis morning shows, they would always have the group of us come out and the celebrities that were going to be there to talk it up. Hey, we're all going to be up in Scottsburg all weekend long, come see us, that kind of thing.
I think our financial give is going to be a little bit more of, if he uses Mass Park, he's probably going to ask for a waiver. That's going to be our financial, not cash dollars, but maybe the use of.
I was for it before, and now I'm even more for it.
I'm not promising not to come back with
I
my
know,
hand,
but that still says the
I'm
city
going
is
to try
not.
not to do that. And I'm going to try to keep our budget under what theirs was, best I can as well, so that we don't spend as much as they did, at least this first year. If it grows, if it's a real success, if things go well, there are a lot of the celebrities that I'm friends with that I'm not asking at this point just because of the budget just getting started. We've got a lot more people that we could bring in if the thing really grows and we have success. As I said, these other two cities held them for 6 years. Danville was mostly COVID, a little bit of change in local leadership. But this thing could be a multiple year thing. It could be something that Scottsburg became known for a time. And it would be nice for Scottsburg to be known for something like this that draws people from the whole eastern half of the United States.
It's always good to bring people in spending money in town. That's just.
And that's the idea here. We're going to draw from just other areas as well. So,
yeah.
So, do we need a vote of blessing? Is that what we're looking for here?
Well, I guess I'm looking for you to tell me what we should do next in terms of any legal requirements, anything that you guys need to do to say, yes, okay, we support you in going forward, to continue to try to make this happen.
Would that be a resolution, or is that what we're looking, that we
I think we probably have to vote on a specific ask, right?
Exactly. I mean, at this point, and we've kind of done this before, I'm trying to think of the Main Street program, we had a vote just that we generally support it when it came back to us, and I think they eventually came back with a more specific request, but I mean, at this point, an oral vote that, we support the idea and come back with a more specific request when it's fleshed out, so.
Yeah, I could be wrong, but it's kind of fit in the redevelopment mode.
It's a lot more from what I was thinking. I mean,
I would think redevelopment commission more so than city council in my mind.
As long as you're talking about financial contribution, I'm looking at what he's requested of the city, and I have no problem in it, but if we look at the financial support, and possibly that is redevelopment.
I
support the concept.
Yeah, financially,
Science Park on June 23rd, but you will really do it.
We will have that problem.
Of course, the Mayberry crew might fit right into that.
You heard Steve Ash running through the whole room.
As long as he's not breaking windows.
Some of you might think he was a classmate, you never know.
I think he was, to be honest with you.
And the schools, they can,
Well, we are blessed with so many facilities in the community here for different things that, I really feel like we can find a place for things that will fit around other things that are happening. Mass Park's a great place, and we hope to use it for some things, but some things would be outdoors, hopefully on the square. Some things might be down at Beechwood Park. That's where a lot of the fun, well, maybe all the Fun Fest was, and it was a real success. So that is my hope, that we can, by everybody working together, we can find places for all of those different things. I've done a lot of work, but I only wanted to go so far until I heard from this group that said, you know what, we're going to buy in, at least, as you said, conceptually, we think it's a good idea. Now we'll come back with more details to redevelopment, to you guys, to whoever is appropriate, to make those presentations to.
yeah, I
Have a meeting tomorrow morning?
Wednesday morning.
Wednesday morning.
Wednesday.
I fell asleep.
I can just, I don't mind us taking a vote and offering support, and I would just say that, I would also encourage you to speak to the school board, because their facilities, they have used community has used the facilities of the school in the past. So just, I don't think, I'll make a motion, a show of support for this Mayberry Days, and willingness to hear any other things that you need.
Three minutes makes the support to go forward. Is there a second to that?
I'll second.
Bill Holman seconds. Questions, comments?
Just to clarify, we support, but we're not specifically.
No,
financial.
those all have to come back.
I think we're all clear. That's what, in the minutes, that, it's a pledge of support, because Eric's gonna hear this and think, well, no, 70,000, they said they support it.
I'll just go back, can I pick up a check for all these? So yes, tonight there is no specific ask for any dollars for anything. It is a specific ask to, I don't want to go put the extra effort in. If I come back and you guys say, well, that's a dumb idea, we don't even want that in my bag.
Right.
So if you're just willing to say, hey, go for it, we're supporting of the concept, we'll come back and make all the specific asks. We'll be doing it very soon, because you'll be here before you know it. But
Just get the word out, right?
yeah, absolutely.
Support, and then with the caveat that is just support only, and that any specifics needs to come in.
Right.
I gotta get started, because Ronnie Shell has been on my phone every day saying, when can I have an interview? Can I talk to your radio station? Can I talk to... He's 91 years old, he's got nothing else to do. So a lot of people are excited about it, and I'm excited that you guys are willing to give us a chance to go try to make this happen.
For sure.
I'd like to see it done.
So we have a motion and a second. Anything else? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign.
Thank you all very much. I'll be back.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Very much.
Thanks, Eric. See you.
Next thing we have is our docket tonight is the new comprehensive plan. Welcome, sister.
Thanks. Happy. Okay. We did have a presentation too, and I know Carmen said that you guys all had received copies of the proposed comprehensive plan, so it might just be easier to talk through some of those things since you have those as well. So thanks for having me back. For the few, I know I think everybody's familiar with face, but just in case, Amy Williams was Taylor Secret Williams Design Group, so good to be back. And we, for the past almost year now, have been working through the comprehensive plan for the city, kind of the updated comprehensive plan. Our next step, we'll be looking at the zoning and subdivision control ordinance. So good dialogues here. Maybe talk about that here in a minute. But in terms of the comprehensive plan itself, I was going to at least touch on the big goals and strategies that were in the plan, and then we can talk through any questions you guys may have. I know there was one thought on a copy and paste error that was already addressed right before the plan commission hearing. So there's a copy and paste error. I think one goal was copied over too many times in just one page, not the actual content pages, but that was already addressed. So there are 5 goals in the proposed comprehensive plan. And within those 5 goals, there's 11 big strategies for the city to kind of work toward over the next 20 years. In addition to these goals and objectives or strategies, there's also a new, an updated future land use plan, which just says if you're going to have a rezoning, like here tonight, that's one of the measures that the council and the planning commission can use to say, does it comply or should it happen? It basically just says if you're going to have a rezoning, this is what it should be if it changes. So, but out of the 5 goals, the first is really to protect character and identity. So it's really trying to focus on that type of character and identity in order to promote good development and economic development. So there were 2 strategies under that. So one was about development patterns that kind of maximize your investments that you make. The second strategy is really looking at a strategic path for economic incentives. So again, being very focused with what you offer. You only have so many of those carrots to offer, so we want to make sure that they are strategic. And the third was strategy to attract the dining, retail, and entertainment that you guys really want in terms of quality of life. It's always that thought of, do we get our heads or beds first, you know what I mean? How do we attract that development? So the second is focus on housing growth. The 2 strategies within that one, the first one is looking at focusing first on your residential base in order to increase your population so you can get all those things like the restaurants and the entertainment that you're wanting. And the second strategy on there is really looking at diverse housing types for everyone. If you work in Scottsburg, you be able to live here, or if you want to have the great big house here and be the bigwig in Louisville, that's great too. So allowing kind of all of those various housing types to occur here. The third goal was really looking at the high quality services, facilities, and utilities that you guys have. You have some great utilities here, great facilities here, so we want to make sure as you grow, those grow too. So there were just 2 strategies under that one, and that was aligning some of those bigger users like your residential, commercial, industrial with the infrastructure and the services. So again, as we grow, we don't want to grow this direction, and one of our utilities planning to grow that direction. And then the second strategy is really the high quality services, such as police, fire, EMS, those types of things. Again, as you're growing, we want to make sure their services are coordinated so that the puzzle pieces align. The fourth goal is really looking at transportation, so that's cars, bikes, and people. There were 2 strategies under that goal. The first is really looking at the road network and making sure we have adequate roads today and tomorrow. And the second was looking at sidewalks and trails. So a lot of different ideas long-term on sidewalks and trails on things we want to connect, urban areas, kind of like downtown, all the way to kind of maybe doing a big loop ultimately long-term with kind of pedestrian access or a trail. And then the last goal is really looking at your identity for quality of life. So 2 strategies, one was recreational facilities and programs, and then the second one was kind of that atmosphere of who you are, your identity. There's some of what we call sometimes placemaking projects. Good past example is your murals on the walls and your streetscape that you've done downtown, or anything of that nature that just kind of gives you a sense of place. So those were the 5 big goals and 11 strategies. At least wanted to touch on them. I can go into details on any of them, but and then also just making sure, acknowledging that the future land use map gets updated as well with this. Our next phase after this will be to go through the zoning and subdivision control ordinances and revise those things. So kind of aligning with things we heard in the comprehensive plan, but then also just the functional side of it too. Making sure it's streamlined, make sure it's easy to understand. It was good to hear some of your conversations tonight on the rezoning, just to hear some of those debates and thoughts and whatnot, and one optional thing, optional task that could be executed on that portion of the contract is to do a kind of training session with Planning Commission, BCA, and you guys. So you have those exact things like you were talking about tonight. Well, we want town or duplexes are fine, but we don't want the big apartment complexes. What should we do? So it kind of outlining again, your options could be this, this, or this, or in order, to make sure you don't get the apartments, you can have a voluntary zoning commitment and a written commitment, that would prevent that. So some of those items that, again, as we get towards the end of that process, we can see what Planning Commission and City Council might want to do on those. But we are starting that process right now, and the plan was for that to run kind of this calendar year as well. So, any questions?
I don't have a question, I have a comment.
Yes.
Amy can speak to this stuff better than anybody. I know, Council, you've probably taken a look at this, and Mayor as well. We have to be very careful that the message that we send is also what we do. Amy's really good about hearing from many people that can take these comp plans and say, oh, well, your community said in your comprehensive plan that you want this, but you just voted down that. So like, for example, what we're just talking about, the rezone, as of right now, the future land use map calls for commercial. Now, we're not tied to that, we don't have to do that, but we also need to be aware that if that's something that we are interested in doing, that is reflected within the comprehensive plan, and definitely, more importantly, in my opinion, the zoning ordinance that we're going to talk to, here shortly. So I'm so glad that we did this in more ways than one, but I know of one person in particular that Amy probably knows as well that can take a comp plan from anybody and say, well, this is what you actually meant, and then you've done this. So we have to just be careful about doing that, because I've seen it many times.
And that's excellent points. Again, this is the guidance. Your zoning is your law. So that's the letter of, thou shalt, which is, this is what you should do. And when you do get a rezoning, there are five criteria you base that rezoning on based on state statute. One of which is this map. The comprehensive plan is one of the 5 criteria from Indiana Code. So there's 4 other criteria you base those things on. Again, so it's one of 5 things that you do look at, I guess.
Right.
It's usually the most frequent because, I don't know, when you color a map, people are just like, ooh, you go to that versus preservation of, property values and, those sort of things. But yeah, it is one of those 5 things that you do. So if it doesn't align exactly, there's 4 other criteria that you can use for that too. So.
Well, I think it'll help because I know in the planning commission, I've been on it now 3 years, and we've not, the old comprehensive plan is, 30 years old?
It's very old.
So, it's hard to make those decisions without this.
Right.
And, we get in a situation where I think it'll help. I really do, so.
Yeah. Especially your ordinances, I always say, once those go through and they get adopted, those are the things, because that is the thou shalt, you have to do. Those are the things that I always say too, like, don't be scared to amend. Like, I don't know, I feel like people adopt an ordinance and like, oh, wait, I gotta print it out. It's like, you know what I mean? I can't change. Amend them, that's the whole purpose. If something isn't working exactly as you wanted it, it's a simple process.
Well, things will change.
Absolutely. And so you need to kind of have a little bit of flexibility in there. It's not like you're rewriting things altogether, but again, there's little nuances that you can say, we're gonna actually, go through and do a quick little amendment. We do an add 10 days prior and a public hearing real quick, and it's easy. So people get a little nervous about that too, but you can always make tweaks and adjustments. So tonight, I do know we are looking for, you would adopt this by resolution, and so that would be kind of the motion, I guess, if you want to adopt it. It came with a favorable recommendation from Plan Commission, so it's the same process in terms of that as a rezoning. It just goes as a resolution versus an ordinance typically.
Well, I think you guys are doing it, the work that you guys done. I know I couldn't be at many of the steering committee meetings, but I'm looking forward to, I saw Carmen's email about the UDO committee, which is, I like that stuff a lot more than the comprehensive plan. But I'll make a motion to approve this as presented.
Christiana makes the motion to approve the new comprehensive plan. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Remain seconds. Questions, comments, concerns? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign? Unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, Josh, will you prepare?
I was going to ask, do we have a resolution?
Do you have a resolution?
We do not have a resolution.
No, I can do one,
Okay.
and just attach this in exhibit.
If you need an example, but I'm sure you got.
I will take an example any day.
Super.
Yeah.
I do. I know where Dr. goes. Even easier, right?
Yeah, if you don't mind just shooting that to Carmen.
Yeah. I'll send that to you. Yeah, come in tomorrow. So.
Will that be on our next then?
They voted to approve it, so
So
they'll authorize
just
it.
sign. So that'll be
action plan and start implementing some of those items.
And there's gonna be a lot of people responsible for a lot of things if we begin to implement this. I don't know how we begin to sort that out and move forward with it, so.
Well, and there is an action plan. So towards the end of the document, flip through here really quickly, just to make sure you guys are aware. Scrolling up. So you'll see there are action tables kind of at the end. And those are divided into immediate, short, mid, and long range. So it's those immediate items that you want to go and take out, and whether it's Carmen printing those pages off, I sometimes say and say, here you are, Mayor, here you are, X and Y and Z. You know, whoever is that responsible party identified for those in order to implement, and we bolded who's kind of supposed to be the leader of the pack on those, you know, at least initially. Those are the ones that then you want to start to, again, kind of divvy out the assignments, right? Because if you're never said, here you go, someone's going to take it on. But that becomes part of the kind of responsibility. And
then, I guess that's my question, who drives it, who's responsible to say, all right, let's look at these high priority issues, who says, all right, you do this, I mean,
so by state statute, there's not like a certain person. A lot of times the planning commission will at least, again, initially divvy it out and say, okay, you know, council, these are the 5 items that were on your kind of list for this year. Here they are. I know sometimes it's harder for planning commission to give direction to council because of the, you know, nature of it. But again, it's all on the premise that we're trying to support the comprehensive plan. And I always say it's a good thing, like, annually just to check in. So whether it is planning commission kind of checking in, or somebody on council going back and saying, okay, let's give ourselves a grade. You know, did we get an A or did we get an F? It's not necessarily bad if we get an F. There's probably a reason. Maybe the funding fell through. Maybe it wasn't a priority, or maybe, oh my gosh, COVID hit. You know what I mean? There's reasons for it, but it gives you the opportunity to have a little bit of an honest assessment of saying, like, ooh, I dropped that one and I need to pick it up, or that one really became not important and we can move past it, you know?
Did you create, or did I dream, did you create a checklist? Was it Celebrate? I thought I saw a checklist, like at 1 year, 5 year, 10 year.
Yeah, so that's what we do kind of have that worked into either short, medium, or long. And I can kind of send you, or at least.
I imagine seeing like,
we've
I
done
thought I saw like a
little
checklist.
report cards.
Yes, that's what I think I saw.
And so we've done like, again, annual report card template that, you know, whoever can use to kind of implement. So if you, I could send something like that to Carmen too, that's not a big deal.
That would be great.
Again, it's just or if you say, oh, we should be on your first agenda of the year, you know, you pick something annually that you can remember, like every time we elect officers, you know what I mean? Something like that, you throw it on there, say that's when we're supposed to look at how we evaluate our progress. Just because if not, it will, all of a sudden, you realize like, oh, COVID started 3 years ago, how did that happen, you know? You don't realize how long time goes.
And I've spoken with Amy on a few things here. One of the things is I've identified an area that I would like to see in a high housing, or more higher cost housing area, that we may have to go to an executive meeting to see if there's an interest there in going forward with this property. But it's probably $45,000 up.
I think shortly we should have an executive session anyway, just to be updated on a few things.
Yes.
That discussion might fit in well there. Rick, are you okay with that?
I'm fine.
I mean, I can think of a couple of issues that I personally would like to have, you know, an update on, and especially as we begin the new year. So, and I'd like to hear what you have to say on this development.
Absolutely.
Do we want to try to do that before the next meeting?
I don't care. I personally would just like to schedule one in the near future. I'll leave it up to you guys.
What do you guys, what's best for you all? I know you're coaching. So, what nights are?
It just depends on what day you're looking at. I can even do days if needed. Obviously, you can't do days, can you?
No, I
You go to school and stuff.
Not this year.
Not this year.
Not this year.
Or you got-
Probably not next year either, but,
Well, we can just pick a date and then I can work around it. So.
I don't mind, I can do after school, like 3 pretty easily. If we can, huh?
Or 4.
Or 4, are you still?
I mean, I'm still until May, I'm
Oh,
not
okay.
signing again, so.
Oh, okay, I didn't know, yeah, or 4.
I'm in a
yeah.
contract.
Yeah, I didn't know you were still doing that.
Pretty flexible.
I'm pretty flexible. And I guess it, I mean, well, Monday we don't have school, but, I mean, you guys might be doing something, I don't know. I know it's a federal holiday and City Hall's closed, so.
I can meet Monday.
Monday's fine with me.
I'd be okay.
Check your schedule. It's good for me.
Are you good?
I'll be out of town, but I don't know if you guys need me or not, so.
We always
I don't know
need
what
to,
time I'll be back in town, though. Because the kids are out too, so we're gonna try to.
Yeah, it's up to you guys, what time?
Rick, I don't care, I'm flexible. The only day I have an issue with is the 25th, so other than that,
can we do Monday morning?
you schedule it, I'm there.
Yeah.
School's out too, brother.
Yeah, you wanna do 9 o'clock,
It's fine.
Okay. City Hall.
right here?
And you're looking at the 16th.
Yes,
What day?
the 16th.
February?
No,
Executive session.
January.
a week from today.
Amy, when is the timeline for the UDO?
So we are starting right now. The UDO is just 2023, so,
Right.
Compliments 2022, so the UDO is in theory 2023, I would say.
So we're planning on kind of in back end of the year, to present it to council.
Yeah, that's the goal, so. And I did try, Carmen, I sent the 2 emails, so I'm sorry, I realized.
No, you're good. They
I just sent her
just-
2 examples of
Yes.
resolutions, so, in Word documents.
Are you able to
Okay,
advertise that?
Thank you.
She'll usually
Thank
take
you.
care of that.
Yeah, no problem.
If it's, because it's executive, because it's going to talk about some land.
Right.
Yeah, you just shoot
Huh.
the purchase.
Later, do you have the generic sample I've sent past? Can we send you one? I didn't.
I'll look.
And Jill, we're talking about Monday, 90 and 116.
And then none of them have to be here, I mean, I don't want to
Right.
bring anybody.
Yeah, we don't want anybody coming out their office.
If this is your, your day
Yeah,
off.
don't come in.
You're early, yeah.
I don't know, that's good to know.
As long as we can get in the building, we're good.
We can do it at the job if we need to.
Yeah,
That's where we.
Bring donuts. Oh, Lon's is closed.
because we're just gonna be talking about, and then just an update on some issues.
Yeah.
So we, Jane, don't feel like you need help.
No.
That's good, thank you. Yeah, because I'm thinking.
Amy, thank you.
No, I was
Thank you so very much. Thank you.
Sit down and wait, though.
We changed the conversation on.
Yeah, I didn't want to feel like I was intruding on that, conversation. But yeah, thank you guys, and if you have questions, let us know, or I know that Christian's been on the committee so far, and I think is planning on staying on that committee for the UDO, which is the
So like-
Unified Development Ordinance, your zoning, your subdivision control stuff. So let us know if you have thoughts as we get back.
Thank you so very much.
Thank you guys.
I appreciate you doing that. Well,
Yes.
Perfect.
And April,
Right.
last thing we have is
Tax abatement,
tax abatement.
and that's for the old focus.
Yes, 2022-R-8A. Josh, you want to address that?
I can address that. I have received an email from Wendy with 17 Indiana. The lease has been signed. As a part of the lease, there was some insurance information, different things that were to be exchanged by the parties. That is still ongoing, and the owner is waiting for that to be completed before signing the SB1. So it has to be tabled again.
All right,
There's progress, but not complete
I
progress.
make a motion that we table.
I'll second.
Motion been made by Rick Mansing, Christian Evans, all in favor, say aye. Say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous, thank you very much. What else do we have for this evening?
National championship.
Yeah.
Let me just mention one thing. I spoke with J.R. Ward, he's a new county councilman, he'd like to kind of see a Saturday hours possibly at the transfer station, have a free have maybe a spring or a fall pickup. If council would be, or people think
I'll make that motion.
for the spring or fall.
I love that idea.
Can I ask?
We can put stipulations.
Is that in addition to the Friday, the first Friday, or is it gonna take place that when they waive the free Friday?
Well, I mean, that's a good question. You could almost do away possibly with the free Friday.
Well, I'd like to do as much as we can to
Keep cleaning
I
up.
mean, I really would. I know I dropped just a little bit of stuff off Friday, and they have a tremendous amount of stuff that dropped off that, you know, it's not gonna end up sitting on the street.
Yeah. The nice thing about free Fridays is, or nice thing about the spring cleanup, you know, until you put it out there, half of it disappears anyway. Because it's, you know, it's gone.
I wouldn't, you know, if we just did the pickup once a year and kept the free Fridays, that'd be all right with me. But I do like the Friday drop off.
Keep up free Fridays and one pickup?
I think we have a good topic for executive session.
Okay.
Yeah, why don't we, I was getting ready to say, Mr. Mayor, why don't you come with a plan?
Sure.
And in executive session, we can talk about it.
That sounds good. That sounds good. We'll do that. Anything else? We have a motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion.
We're adjourned.